we move on to our third album, Raspberry Moon by Hotline TNT. And this was Kiley's pick. So Kiley, you kick us off.
Yeah, Hotline TNT, New York band that's turned into a band. Originally, Will Anderson, kind of a solo thing. Um, and I believe Raspberry Moon is the first one to have like a full band that's not Will Anderson playing on it. But like everyone, unless the real hardcore folks, I came across Hotline TNT 2023 with Cartwheel, their second record. Um, I don't think it was a year-end record for me, but it's also one that I've kept listening to constantly. So was looking forward to what Raspberry Moon had to offer, and it's funny that this came out around the same time as that Turnstile record because I feel like they're kind of getting the same treatment from old fans, where there's definitely a maturation in sound, but I don't think it's boring by any means. Awesome shoegaze, power pop, and I actually like this record more than Cartwheel. And I think this is it does a really good job at sounding completely fresh while calling from the 90s. Even though he's said they aren't a shoegaze band, I think it leans strongly into shoegaze. There's some, even just from last decades, there's some turnover moments. A lot of it reminds me of early Dinosaur Jr. And yeah, this along with the other albums that we mentioned at the beginning of the pod has been my constant rotation. And even with the second track, the instrumental Transition Lens, kind of throwing that in right away. I think it's funny, but yeah, compared to the other two records we've talked about that we're half on board with, this one I'm fully on board with, and the opposite of a 60-minute record, where this one just seems to fly by too quickly for me. So yeah, I'm very happy, and I think Karl, we've talked a lot about Turnover missing in their evolution of sound, but for me, I think Hotline TNT for right now is on the right track.
There we go. So, Karl, what did you make of Raspberry Moon?
Yes, I mean, Hotline TNT, I kind of came in thinking I didn't know their music before this month, but then it was one of those where I saw the artwork to their previous album, Cartwheel, and then when I was adding this one, I discovered that I already had Cartwheel in my library. So I think it must have been you. I was like, Kylie must have recommended that to me at some point. And I can't recall how I felt about it. So I'm thinking, like, based on Raspberry Moon, now I'm gonna have to go back and revisit that one now. Because yeah, okay, what Kylie said, really digging this album. The opener, Was I Wrong? I think I messaged you guys, just superb, grips you straight away. It kind of starts out spacey and grungy, and then in that second half, it just kind of comes alive. It's like really comes like this fist in the air with the like triumphant guitar solo in there. Kind of reminded me a bit of Weezer, but maybe with a bit more effort. They're quite slacking some of the stuff that they do, but that's definitely reminiscent of their sound. And yeah, then without realizing, it goes into obviously Transition Lens, which is like this distorted synth passage, and then before you know it, it leads you straight into another absolutely like rip roaring track in the Scene, which and then that seamlessly goes into Julia's War, which is definitely like that's moving from Weezer into like Ben's era Radiohead, and yeah, the riff at the start kind of reminded me of the title track off that Radiohead record, and yeah, and from there, it's basically just for me a flawless rock record. Break Right is probably my favorite track on the whole thing. Got this great, central riff about it. Those twinkly, pianos that come in, which it's reminiscent of what we hear on the recent Turnstile record, and that kind of it's got like that summer sheen about it. Candle, Dance the Night Away, both similarly anthemic. There, I've got a bit of the Eels coming in. So Weezer, Radiohead, Eels, very 90s sound kind of going on. And then we get Where You Been, which is, then we kind of move from like 90s up rock into Midwest emo. It's like it got this great kind of melancholic end to the whole thing where, it just kind of dissolves into the static right at the end of the track. So, just a fantastic summer rock record. And I think, obviously we mentioned them at the start. Turnstile rightfully getting a lot of praise for Never Enough. And I would say this one is right up there with that record for me. I love the way it's seamlessly stitched together. There's never a dull moment across the 35 minutes, and plenty of like rich multi-layered instrumentation to sink your, I was going to say teeth, but your ears into as well. So big fan. And if you enjoyed that Turnstile record, I'd say definitely give this one a spin as well.
Yes, the album cover of Cartwheel is really, it really sticks with you. Once you see it, just like with the yellow and the kind of jagged, like, I don't even know what it is.
Are we all getting tattoos?
I'm sure a few people have done that. It really, it really sort of, it's quite vivid. And I remember seeing it in a lot of end of year lists, but never, it was always on my kind of always massive like to-do list and never got to it. So this was a first opportunity to find out who Hotline TNT are. And I suppose like I maybe wasn't expecting this because certainly with the first track I was getting a lot of Britpop feels from it, and I wasn't really kind of expecting a kind of British indie feel from the band. I thought it might be something different, but then I think the rest of the album is probably more in keeping with what they do. But was I wrong? Yeah, it's a great start. Scuzzy guitar. It's the first 5 or 6 tracks as well. There seems to be a different woman's name kind of focus on, and I was like, is this the thing of this album? Like, Julia's War, there's Julia, the scene, we've got Maxine is like the figurehead. I think in Was I Wrong there's another name mentioned, and sadly that doesn't keep up because I quite like that little thread of just different women's names, and obviously there must be some story there, but it's the first half of the album where it really sings for me. So like I say, Was I Wrong? Great track. Transition Lens, you don't expect second track to be an instrumental and quite an interesting segue, but in some ways I feel it just kind of blends into the end of Was I Wrong and the scene. So it makes it a nice cohesive kind of track. And then and the scene and Julia's War, they're the two which I love the most on this record. It's so energetic in the scene. He's crying out for a sign of love from his lover, which is Maxine, as mentioned before. And you could just, really feel that energy before it winds down. Julia's War is very anthemic, quite triumphant in what it does. Slightly Beatles-like with the na 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 nah, which again I got like that British kind of influence. But it's their most direct and poppy moment on the album, and it really works. You then have Letter to Heaven, which, you know, there's bad associations here as well, but Red House Painters is what I got from that, and they're a band who, you know, I really loved back in the day. Let's not talk about the lead singer and his ills. And then, you know, Break Right, you know, just some interesting production touches. You've got a bit of piano in here, and a lot of heartbreak. And so I mean, I think thematically it's that pining for a lover. It's relationship based. It's quite fixed to that. But I'd say that when you get towards the back end is when that kind of theme and the way it's delivered sort of loses a bit of its appeal. You know, for me, you know, the bottom end of the spectrum is If Time Flies, Dance the Night Away, and Lawnmower just didn't resonate, didn't sort of get going. But within this back end, you also have Candle, which really stands out in that section, and a great closer in Where You Been, which was referred to earlier. You know, and feeling comforted by new friendship, status, you know, not with the person they've been with before, so not losing that person completely. It's a very hopeful, kind of bittersweet moment to end this album, which is quite a journey. So yeah, really enjoyable kind of introduction to Hotline TNT. You know, this is what it's all about. It's not just going back to the same, you know, artists I listen to, which I do, of course, but yeah, sort of through the pod, you know, your recommendations always just widens that library of music, and there's just so much of it out there. And this is really, you know, band who, thing like you, Karl, would like to kind of go back to Cartwheel and sort of, you know, because that one seems to be, you know, an interesting what you say about the Turnstile reference, where like some of the fans from Cartwheel are maybe not digging this as much, but sort of, yeah, to have a comparison point and get to know Hotline TNT better. So yeah, another strong one.